Is Putin ready for a war?
Last-ditch efforts to avoid a Russian invasion of Ukraine that U.S. officials say could begin at any time.
About 1 year ago, I decided to break my silence and speak up against injustice in my home country, Russia. Over the past year, I have met many people who have been politically persecuted and heard their stories. The extent of lawlessness and violation against human rights shook me to the core. In recent years, people have been murdered, jailed, and tortured simply because they dared to criticize the government. I'm standing here and without any hesitation, I can say that Putin and his loyal companions, I'm talking about people such as Alexander Lukashenko or Ramzan Kadyrov, are responsible for countless shattered lives. They have killed more people than we can imagine. And all those corrupt police officers, judges, the members of the Secret Service, the propagandists who get paid to execute Putin's orders must be held equally accountable for their crimes.
Мы Россия, и Украина это часть России, и вы в этом скоро убедитесь. Донецк и Луганск русские, и будет вся Украина.
But what always shocked me the most was the silence of the rest of the world. When it came to taking a clear position, so many reacted with reserve. Western politicians said they were concerned. They threatened Russia with sanctions, but when it came to the Nord Stream 2 pipeline or our economic interests, suddenly it became very easy to exchange human rights for the price of oil and gas.
Do you think we will get serious sanctions later this week, as has been hinted?
I doubt it. It would be nice, but it's unlikely considering how deeply intertwined the financial systems are at this point.
It seemed so naive to me. As if the world thought that Putin's terror only threatens people within Russia. But Putin is dangerous for all of us. Let me give you some examples from the past. Recently, I spoke to Hans de Borst from the Netherlands. He lost his 17-year-old daughter who was on her way to a holiday destination when the Malaysia airline flight was shot down on July 17, 2014, while flying over eastern Ukraine. The flight was shot down by what has been determined to be a Russian-made missile launcher fired by Russian-backed rebels. All 298 passengers were killed, and none of them were Russian citizens. What about the poisonings of regime opponents on European soil? In 2018, the Skripals were poisoned and found unconscious on a park bench in Salisbury, England. In 2019, a man was shot dead in the Tiergarten in Berlin by a member of the Russian Secret Service. Ever since my friends and I started our political activism in Berlin, we received death threats. We were followed and photographed by people sitting in cars with darkened windows. People have openly told me they would like to poison me, and we even suspect that the car of my friend was set on fire because of our political work. In May 2021, the world watched as Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko, who as we all know is under full control of Vladimir Putin, forced a Ryanair passenger flight to land in Minsk and kidnap the opposition journalist Roman Protasevich. He could hijack an European civil aircraft because he thought he can get away with it. History shows he can. These incidents are increasing precisely because they are met with no serious punishment. The world is watching in silence. But when is enough truly enough? Right in this moment, Russia has 100,000 troops positioned on Ukraine's border, and the world is holding its breath. For the first time in a long time, I see the West united and terrified, as if we were only now finally realizing that Putin, in his position as head of the state of Russia, presents a profound threat for peace in Europe. Once, at the beginning of his political career, he had the chance to transform the state into a modern democratic country with free elections, create an open Russia that committed to peaceful coexistence and respected European national borders. Now Putin is desperately demanding respect from the world, but there is nothing left to respect this man for. Under his leadership, with the help of his propaganda machine and the Secret Service, Russia has become an authoritarian state that kills and imprisons every opponent of the regime. 20 million Russians live below the poverty line, while Putin and his surroundings possess such unimaginable wealth that this unspeakable amount of money could probably end world poverty in one day. Since the beginning of the pandemic, he lives in complete isolation. He doesn't use a smartphone, hardly uses the internet. He's insanely suspicious, trusts very few people, and the people who are his advisors are themselves consumed by greed for power, wealth, and money. A czar cult is being built around him, and the worst part is that he believes in it. He really believes he is a modern-day czar who is saving Russia. He really believes that America and Europe are his enemies, and everyone who is fighting against him is funded by the CIA or by the West. He has become completely inadequate, living in a parallel reality. In his paranoia, he has become completely unpredictable. The problem is that this man does not just rule a small country. This man is the leader of Russia, a state that strives to rebuild its status of global superpower. This man, in his position, has the ability to issue an order authorizing the use of nuclear weapons. And this is a fact that indeed must terrify us all. Is Putin ready for a war? Right now he is shaking Europe and the world in which we have felt safe for 3 decades. A war would not be beneficial for him, and he knows that. But there remains this 1% of possibility of a war. And this 1% is more than enough. Wake up, world.